Cassandra, from Greek mythology, is one of the most haunting figures ever told. She could see the future, but no one would believe her. She warned that Troy would fall. She screamed that the wooden horse outside the gates wasn't a gift, but the end. She even foresaw her own death, and none of it mattered. Not once did her words change what people chose to do. So this isn't just a story about a prophet with a strange gift. Cassandra's tragedy wasn't that she could see the future. It was that she told the truth, over and over, and the world refused to hear her. She was a princess, born into the royal family of Troy. Close to power, close to the center of everything. Yet somehow, her life became one of the most powerless stories ever passed down. The legend says a god granted her the gift of prophecy. But that gift quickly became a curse. She could see, but no one would believe her. She knew, but no one would listen. And right there, the myth asks one of its most chilling questions. What is the real tragedy? To fall without ever knowing what was coming? Or to see everything clearly and still be unable to stop it? Cassandra lived the second one. We tend to picture prophets as powerful. They know what others don't. They see what's coming before anyone else. It sounds like an advantage. But Cassandra flips that idea completely. Knowing the future, this myth suggests, isn't power. It can be its own kind of suffering. You carry fear while everyone around you still feels calm. You brace for disaster while the city prepares to celebrate. You grieve losses that haven't happened yet for anyone else. That alone is brutal. But add the condition that no one will ever believe you, and it stops being a gift at all. It becomes something closer to a prison. The stories about what Cassandra saw vary in their details, but the moment people remember most is the one right before Troy's fall. After years of war, a massive wooden horse appeared outside the city gates. To the people of Troy, it must have looked like the end of something terrible. The enemy seemed to have pulled back. What remained looked like a trophy, maybe even a sign of victory. That's when Cassandra cried out, "Don't bring it inside. That isn't a gift. There is death hidden in there. The moment you open those gates, this city is finished." Nobody listened. What makes that moment so unsettling isn't that the people of Troy were foolish. It's that they were deeply, recognizably human. When people are exhausted and desperately want something to be over, they reach for relief before they reach for truth. Cassandra wasn't ignored because she was wrong. She was ignored because what she was saying was too uncomfortable to accept. And honestly, people do this all the time. Before deciding whether something is true or false, we instinctively calculate what it would cost us. If that warning is right, I have to stop everything. If that person is telling the truth, then what I believed was wrong. If that's really happening, I have to give up how comfortable I feel right now. In that moment, the choice isn't really between truth and a lie. It's between comfort and discomfort. And most of the time, people choose comfort. That was the wall Cassandra kept running into. People didn't evaluate what she said. They just wanted to escape the discomfort her words would bring. So to say she wasn't believed doesn't quite capture it. More precisely, she was saying what people had already decided they didn't want to hear. She told people who needed the war to be over that it wasn't over yet. She told people who wanted to believe in victory that the worst defeat of their lives was coming. People tend to push away the messenger before they push away the bad news. Why is she so dark? Why does she keep ruining the mood? Why is she the only one not celebrating? It's easier to make the person who warns you the problem, rather than face what they're warning you about. That's an old human habit. Cassandra paid for it with everything she had. But even after Troy burned, her story didn't end. If anything, the cruelest part came after. The walls came down, people died, the fires spread, and even the places that were supposed to be sacred offered no safety. Cassandra was left unprotected. She became something people took, not someone people honored. This is the part of the myth that stops you. It makes you see her not just as a mysterious figure of prophecy, but as someone who absorbed the violence of war in the most direct way. She was someone who spoke about distant fates, while living through brutality up close. Her story isn't just about a divine curse. It's also a story about what war is, about power, and about how easily someone can be reduced to an object rather than a person. What makes it even harder to sit with is that she saw all of it coming. Where she would be taken. What death was waiting. Who else would bleed. Whether clearly or in fragments, the legend says she knew. And still couldn't change anything. This is where Cassandra stands completely apart from other prophets in mythology. Usually, prophecy serves a purpose. It helps someone escape danger, or saves someone's life. But Cassandra's prophecies were always right and never saved anyone. She held the most important truths in the story. And those truths never moved the world. It's not a story about remarkable ability. It's a story about absolute powerlessness. So why has that powerlessness stayed with people for so long? Probably because it doesn't feel that foreign. Most of us have, at some point, brushed off someone's warning without thinking. And most of us have had the experience of seeing something clearly, saying it out loud, and watching no one take it seriously. It happens inside families. It happens inside organizations. It happens in societies. Someone picks up on something wrong early and speaks up. This is dangerous. We can't keep going this way. The silence right now is going to turn into something much worse later. And so many people, even after hearing that, don't move to fix the problem. Instead, they reframe the person who said it. Too sensitive, too negative, always killing the mood. If you make the person who warned you the problem, you don't have to change anything right now. It buys time. But a lot of disasters grow quietly in exactly that window of borrowed time. Just like the people of Troy, let the moment slip away, no matter how loudly Cassandra called out. Cassandra's curse sounds modern because it is. It reads like a mythological punishment. But it also describes a social pattern we still repeat. Some people are treated from the start as though they don't deserve to be taken seriously. Because their voice sounds too sharp. Because they seem too emotional. Because they're too young, or too marginal. Or because what they're saying cuts against what the majority already believes. And once someone is pushed to the outside of trust, even if every word they say turns out to be right, it's very hard to get back to the center. In a world where the position of the speaker gets judged before the content of their words, even the truth isn't treated fairly. Cassandra's tragedy is the most extreme version of that unfairness. And the deeper you look at her story, the more you see something else. People aren't just afraid of the truth. They're afraid of what the truth demands from them. If someone's warning is real, then we have to act. We have to stop celebrating. We have to pull back on what we want. We have to accept that we might already be wrong. And sometimes pay a heavy price to turn around. So unconsciously, people delay. Not yet. That's an overreaction. Let's wait and see. They buy time. But so many tragedies grow in exactly that space. The same way the people of Troy let the final moment slip through their hands. No matter how loudly Cassandra called out, there's something about Cassandra that keeps coming back to me. People find it easier to resent an uncomfortable warning than a false one. They often have less tolerance for someone who told the truth too early than for someone who lied outright. Because a lie can be fixed later. But a truth that arrives too soon demands that you change right now. That's why her story is both an ancient myth and something almost precise in what it shows. It's about the way people fight against what's real. Truth isn't always ignored because it's weak. Sometimes it's ignored because it's too strong. Because accepting it costs too much. This myth understood that, but I think if you only see Cassandra as a tragic victim, you're only reading half the story. She wasn't someone who failed to the end. She was someone who never abandoned the truth, even to the end. She kept speaking when no one was listening. She kept warning when she already knew it was too late. She saw her own fate and still didn't go silent. Most people, in that position, would have closed their mouths. If no one is ever going to believe you, why keep trying? But Cassandra kept going. And that's what makes her both powerless and, in a strange way, dignified. The fact that she couldn't change the outcome doesn't erase the value of what she said. Her life made that point. To me, that's the deepest thing this myth is carrying. A meaningful life isn't one where you always get applause for being right. Sometimes there are moments where you have to say something, even when no one wants to hear it. And the worth of what's true doesn't depend on whether the world immediately agrees. Cassandra didn't save Troy, but she never tried to survive by going along with the lie. When everyone else chose comfort, she held on to the difficult truth. When everything around her tilted toward silence, she stayed on the side of speaking. Maybe the reason this myth has lasted so long is that, somewhere, people already know. It's never only the enemy's weapons that bring a city down. It's also the choice, made quietly and repeatedly, to turn away from the truth you don't want to hear. So this isn't a myth asking who was right and who was wrong. It leaves us with something more uncomfortable than that. When someone says something we don't want to hear, do we look at what they're actually saying first? Or do we push them away first? Is there a truth we already know somewhere inside us, but are pretending not to hear because accepting it is too much? Cassandra wasn't only standing at the gates of Troy. She might still be standing in a lot of places, in a lot of different faces, saying the same kinds of things right now. And the reason this myth is still alive comes down to one thing. Every time we hear this story, we laugh at the people of Troy. And then, almost in the same breath, we see ourselves in them.